what's up, everybody? Thank you for joining us today at the 21st Men Curated Shows, where I am your host for the curated shows themselves, where we are redefining masculinity through our 4 pillars of modern manhood: mental health, community, integrity, and entrepreneurialism. Well, coming up tonight, a very, very special talk where you are going to be mind blown on men's sexuality and homophobia.
Welcome to the 21st Men, where we are redefining masculinity through our 4 pillars of modern manhood, which are mental health, integrity, entrepreneurialism, and community. Not necessarily in that order. Right now, today, we're going to be talking about sexuality and men's homophobia. With us today, we have the owner and operator of Gay Apparel and the Truth Over Tea podcast. He's going to help me co-host, and we're going to talk about these things with really an expert in those areas, but at the same time, we're also going to introduce everybody at the table. So before we get into it, let's introduce. So Chris, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Chris Wilmot.
Rashad.
Christian.
Jason.
And they do have last names. They're not important enough to be shared. So let's talk about sexuality first and really kind of divulge into that. So
let's talk about sex, baby.
Okay, sorry, it just felt wrong. It just felt
that's
nope, sexuality, not sex. Okay, all right.
We'll talk about sexual behavior in this conversation, but they're different than sexuality. So sexuality and sexual behavior are 2 different things, and you can also self-identify as both of them. So, for instance, you can be homosexual and be one, and you can be heterosexual and be another. So, for example, you can be straight and demisexual, which we'll get into at the table. And then you can also be homosexual and be sapiosexual, which we will get into at the table. So how many of you guys know of different sexualities as a sexual behavior?
The ones you just named specifically, I can't define.
I don't know what the hell you just said, man.
I need you to give us a quick definition.
So for me, I'm going to say this. I know that right now in our society, we put people into camps with their sexuality. Sexuality to me is a spectrum. You align yourself on a whole array of different things, and it changes throughout your life, and it's different ways you feel at different times. I don't know why, for some reason, our society put people pigeonholes them into one thing. It doesn't work like that. It's an array of emotions, especially. I was 15, I had different emotions than I do now. You know what I'm saying? And when I'm 60 years old, I'll have different emotions than I do now. So I don't know why. It's weird because you made 2 labels. I don't know what the hell you just said.
I'll tell you, bro.
But why is that so important to categorize ourselves as such? I don't know if that's...
I've been asking the same question. I think we shouldn't categorize ourselves. I do like the existence of categories as a place of reference to study certain things.
Sure.
What about starting place?
The DSM, the Diagnostic Statistic Manual that psychologists use, I think that should actually just be used as a tool to understand different aspects of people. You're talking about spectrums. Well, people can be on the autism spectrum because there's different types of autism.
And different levels, right, varying degrees of it.
But we don't define you by that, but by understanding, by giving it a name and allowing it a space so that we can now put information in there to better understand that aspect of you, it helps us to better understand you in fullness.
So that's some. Oh, what do you got on you, man? I want to hear this, man.
I'm not saying you should be labeled as that.
Let him talk. Let me hear it, because I know there's something there. You sigh deeply. What is it, man? What is it?
Deeply, very passionate about this topic, so please forgive me. But having been in that fluidity, as we kind of are speaking of, I can understand the generalization of trying to understand a person, but I feel like that person needs to understand them before you do. And oftentimes, even though with that, what did you call it, DSM?
Yes.
What I've seen is people think because they understand the person, that person understands them, and they end up categorizing them and identifying them with that. So even though maybe somebody as mature as you can obviously separate the two. A lot of people not as mature, so they'll see a person, and my old pastor used to always say this: what you label, you can limit. So they want that label because they want that identity.
Yep.
And it's from both spectrums. The person either telling that person that, or the person identifying with it. So
let's segue into that then, so we can maybe identify some of our traits at this table. So some of the sexual behaviors that we read, and I'll read them through, and then we'll go from there, okay? So asexual is a sexual identity or orientation that includes individuals who don't experience sexual attraction to others of any gender.
By choice or by force?
That's they don't enjoy. And
Yeah, I was
whoa,
making a joke.
whoa, look at you.
Bad joke.
It went over my head. You're too smart for me, Mr. Professor. By the way, everybody, if you didn't know, he just got hired on at Flagler. He's starting to teach me, and I'm really excited about his progression,
that,
man.
Yes.
Autosexual, only sexually attracted to themselves.
Been there.
Autosexual.
So demisexual is an attraction to someone sexually only if they have experienced an emotional connection first.
Okay. Okay.
Sapiosexual, and of course there's a lot more than this, but sapiosexual is the last one that we have on our list, and that's sex attraction will only depend on intelligence. Now this doesn't mean that you don't find somebody attractive or you don't use that as a gauging factor. But what it does do is it say, oh, okay, I think they're pretty, but if they don't have these qualities, you're not going to become sexually aroused. So that's what those behaviors are.
What was asexual again?
Asexual is someone individuals who don't experience any sexual attraction in any capacity.
Yeah.
They are more, they don't experience any sexual attraction. Doesn't mean that they don't experience romantic or emotional attractions.
Right. Their sex drive is pretty.
But they don't want to have sex. Now
There's what I found out through studying and personal experience. I noticed that a lot of people, it's like a nature versus nurture thing, is we'll probably get into later, but a lot of times different things are contributing to why a person feels a certain way or sexually, pretty much sexually, like asexual, have no sexual desire. They can experience trauma of some sort that kind of help shape that. Or somebody who's on the other end who's been extremely sexual can also be identifying in those different, as I call it, fluidity of sexual expressions.
I got something. With the exception of all the ones you read, with the exception of the asexual one, I know that's more like a natural thing where some people just may not be into sex like that. But the rest of them, I've always challenged the authenticity of them. Because if you're telling me was Sapio the one about intelligence and stuff like
it depends on the level of intelligence.
What is intelligence to each person? That could mean something different.
But what is sexual attraction to each person? That's different.
Right.
So,
but what I'm saying is, if you look at somebody and you find them sexually attractive, I find it hard to believe that. And I'm not trying to challenge anyone who would label themselves this way.
Right.
But I feel like they're always going to have a story where they just had a visual of something and were sexually attracted to it. I don't think they can go their whole lives and say, if I didn't do an IQ test on this person, then...
Are you saying that when you look at someone, you are sexually attracted to them? Because I don't. When I look at somebody, I think that they're appealing, that they look okay a certain eye, but it doesn't start in that sexual
We need to
mentality.
define. We need to define it because I don't know.
What I'm saying is, this is the point I'm making.
Interesting.
You are not interested in the intelligence of a person if they don't visually stimulate you first. Because
but visual stimulation.
There are. So if we're talking intelligence,
define that real quick. Visual stimulation. What are you defining it as? Because I define it differently. So I wouldn't necessarily say visual stimulation is of a sexual nature, because I can be visually stimulated by you in an appearance and you would catch my eye. But if you don't have that, I'm just talking about it as a general for this particular topic. Sapiosexual, if you don't have the intelligence level that I'm looking for, then I'm no longer interested.
So let me just put it to you like this. I'm gonna paint you a picture. I'm gonna paint you a picture. If you have this woman, she's 23 years old, and she's looking to engage with someone she feels is intelligent, because that's what she's sexually attracted to.
Okay.
Would you agree that older men on average might be more intelligent than younger men, just on average, because of their experience and stuff like that?
Yeah.
Should she be going after 60 and 70-year-old guys because they're the most intelligent, as long as they have the sexual?
Well, if they got enough money.
I understand.
I think that's going to be that's why it's personal.
But you're saying the visual component will be there.
That's what I'm saying. I feel like the visual component would have to come in, because if it was just intelligence, I feel like she should be on senior citizens more than...
I get you. Okay, I see what you're saying.
I think you both are saying the same thing, just in different ways, because the definition was you may be aroused. I mean, you may be find somebody sexually appealing, but you're not sexually, or excuse me, you may find somebody appealing, but you're not sexually stimulated by them until those other factors
We got
come
to
into
define
play.
what sexual attraction is in the first. Like,
But that's the $1 million question.
Yeah,
Like, what is the sexual attraction?
mental,
They
it's
they
physical,
even
it's
say it's
emotional.
not. They have no way of concretely identifying what
So do
sexual
you think when
attraction
you see somebody you can be sexually attracted to them? Because I think you could.
Yeah, you can.
Depending on the person.
upon the person.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah,
So-
I think majority of us probably could.
Exactly.
You could agree to that. But then there's other people, like I said, there's other contributing factors of why a person or how a person perceives his or her sex. So it's like if they're more of the intelligent thing, something may catch their eye, but they're going to more so lean to the intelligent stuff or the other.
Sure thing.
Has anyone met anybody who had that label?
Which
or
one?
said they had any of those
Sapiosexual?
labels, like sapio or?
I will say I'm.
identify themselves as
I will
met
say
asexual.
out of reading that,
Asexual, yes, I've heard of.
out of reading it, I will say I align more with the demisexual side of things.
Which one is that again?
Emotional connection. Meaning the thing is like for me, is just like, yes, I'll find you visually appealing, and you have to have certain physical qualities as well, right? In addition, but if the emotional connection doesn't form, I don't give a dang how you look, you're gone.
Okay,
Like,
I'm gonna.
for me,
I'm gonna spin off what you said. I think it depends on where you are in your life. If I got out of a relationship, I'm not
Right.
looking for emotional connections. I'm looking for just some. And women are in the same boat too. That's not.
Yeah.
It's people in general in the same way.
Definitely.
So I think it depends on where you are in your life. Yeah.
That's actually another one. I just didn't add it in here. It's
Okay.
called fluidity. It's called fluid sexual behavior. It means that based on moments in your life is what you are attracted to.
Absolutely.
Be it male, be it female, be it what behavior is you self-identify as and what you
Sure
don't
thing.
self-identify as. What do you think in as a whole with sexuality and where you want to go with your brand? By the way, this brand is sponsored by Gay Apparel. And please go ahead and tell them where they can find you real quick, and then go into what your viewpoints on this are as someone who deals in this and also your business and catering to that quality.
Well, you can find me on www.godacceptsyou2.com. That's where I have all the resources. They're pretty much spiritual because I like to attack such topics and really all topics from that platform because I just see it covers everything. And when we talk about like sexuality, I found personally in my own experience and then through those studies that it's fluid, for lack of better words. And so we have some people, like I know with the work that I do with the LGBT community, they identify LGBTQ and can continue to go on, but it can also change throughout that. I know society, especially in the male culture, some people like you were saying, they like to identify you as that and don't allow you to change from that. So you have those components that we have to consider that some people can, because obviously depending on how that person identifies or what shapes their sexual preference. So I've just found that there's a lot of contributing factors that shape one's sexual desires. And when I looked it up, it was saying that sexual desires or sexual preferences is based off that individual. So, sexual traumas can begin to shape a person's sexual trauma or sexual desires or preference, or just exposure. If you're exposed to certain things at a very young age, porn and stuff like that, it can begin to give you this mentality that this is how this should be, whether it be male or female or both, if you're into that. So
I like that you said individual. I really believe that most things should be individualized, not standardized. We tend to try to standardize, like even with teaching in school. We're going back into school right now, and they teach everybody pretty much the same way in most schools, which is just, I'm going to funnel information to you. You study it when when we're done, or unless I give you a pop quiz, then you just got to do it now. But some people are kinesthetic learners before they're, audio learners or visual learners, and so it should be individualized.
Right. So with that being said, I want to move into homophobia a bit. So everybody at the table, do you identify as straight, gay, or bisexual?
So let's go around the table.
Yeah, go ahead.
Straight.
Christ.
In the concept, it doesn't matter. Just go.
Straight.
Can I just say Christ, or don't have to specify?
I mean, that's up to you, man. But in the context of these next questions, at this moment, I'm a straight man. So with why do most straight men? Why are they homophobic towards homosexuals? And have you ever been homophobic towards
Can we
homosexuals?
define that exactly first before we?
Homophobic meaning acting. Saying things like, "Oh, I don't care what they do, just don't bring it around me," or doing things like, "What was the purpose of saying that?" Or the concept, fear of homosexuals,
Yeah, that's all it is,
even
fear.
on a subliminal level.
Whether expressed or unexpressed, most of it is unexpressed.
Do you guys have a homophobia towards homosexuals?
No, I wouldn't be on the. I wouldn't be on the show if I did. But what I'm saying is,
Okay.
I think it's people who are willing to venture out and be and understand that culture are less likely to be homophobic. If you, it's just like race. If the more you spend time with other races, the more you spend time with other people who are different from you, you are more accepting of those individuals. The more time you spend secluded and compartmentalized with your own thoughts, it's tougher to branch out.
So I'll say that I have tendencies that can be homophobic, and they're rooted
Like what?
in society, and I think a lot of people have them regardless. I think a lot of people, not everybody, but a lot of people have them and they don't even realize it. Such as I get uncomfortable around the more feminine men. I'm uncomfortable around that. Period. I am, and that is a form of homophobia because they're not doing anything to me by just being near me.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's homophobia though, man.
It is.
If you're uncomfortable, if you're not acting out against it.
But they're not doing anything to me.
It doesn't necessarily have to be acted out against
It's
for
an
it to be a
internal
phobia.
thing, right?
Yeah, it can still be a phobia if you're afraid of, but uncomfortable. I get what you're saying. Like if you're uncomfortable, that possibly may not be a phobia, but it could be if he's saying.
I only get uncomfortable when they push.
Are we done, man? This shit.
Keep going.
I only get uncomfortable when they're like pushy on. Like I actually find a lot of individuals who identify that way. I'm very comfortable around.
So what is
until
pushy, though?
until they get to a place where they're trying to like hit on me to the point where it's like almost like they're I don't.
But that's not phobia to me.
No, that's not. Because at that point, you just set your boundaries. Even with a female, you would set hopefully set those boundaries. But the moment that it becomes different between what you would do with a woman is like, for instance, would you like those types of things? You have to set your boundaries on your preferences and stuff like that. Those are for you. But particularly, some people at just being near them.
Yeah.
It feels like the homophobia.
That's definitely homophobia.
Y'all tell me if this is homophobic, because I said no when we answered for, but y'all tell me if it's homophobic or not.
And we're gonna end right after you.
If I'm out or whatever and I'm around like a gay man, if they were to come at me, I would kind of feel offended. Like, you think I'm gay? Like, is that homophobia? Because I would kind of.
Well, how did they come at you?
I think it's complimentary.
Well, it's never happened before.
Like in a way, like a hitting on you, or just
like if they hit on me, I would be like, what makes you think? You know what I'm saying? Is that homophobic?
In that moment, you have to realize that you're internalizing yourself. At that point, it has nothing to do with them. They just find you attractive physically.
Yeah.
I think, dude, honestly, I think it's a compliment. No joke, man. I think if a gay man sitting on you, I'm like, hey,
I find it as a compliment.
what's up?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
On that note, thank you so much, guys, for having this conversation. Before we go, do you guys feel a little bit more educated on the topic? On where you go? Name one thing before we go that you learned tonight that you didn't know.
Oh, asexual. I didn't realize that there was that word
Existed?
Well, I knew it existed, but I didn't realize it meant that you weren't actually attracted.
Sexually
attracted to people, you know? Yeah.
What about you?
The terms you listed, there's obviously a whole array of different categories and things, and I need to probably do some research on it and figure out more. So,
just the terms that you listed and the last thing we just hit on when I put out there.
I appreciate that. So do you guys feel empowered to maybe dive deep in there to really kind of see maybe where you guys fall on the spectrum? Because I'm not talking about your sexual identity or your I'm talking about the sexual behavior part, right?
Yeah.
All of these things, like just for educational purposes to see what, you know?
Definitely that emotional one. I didn't know there was a name for that.
Yeah.
And the intelligence and stuff like that. That's a sexual preference. I never knew that. So.
Well, it's more of a sexual behavior.
Or behavior.
Yeah.
Are those the only ones?
No, there's a lot more. And I can, and of course, we're going to link it all in the
sure
bio.
this is growing.
Thank you so much for tuning in to the 21st Men. Again, where we're redefining masculinity through mental health, integrity, community, and entrepreneurialism. Thank you so much, Cass, for tuning in. And have a wonderful rest of your guys' day. I don't know where I'm looking. Welcome to the We Create space. I'm Vince with the 21st Men, and we're here to tell you a story. But first, let's go ahead and dive right in. We Create is a space for creatives entrepreneurs, anything that you think you can build here. And the 21st Men has the professional division, the community division, we have the on-campus division, in the classroom division, as well as our media division. You guys are familiar with that. So what we're doing now is we're branching out. So our professionals are on campus, in the classroom, in our community, need a space to create. So welcome to We Create. So we're trying to develop this space to be a space for creatives to come and develop their craft, to be able to join forces, have a hub, and be able to create without any barriers and any limits. What does that look like? We're gonna have free videography classes, free photography classes, free videography studio, as well as a photography studio. A podcast studio that's not gonna cost you extra to use, as well as the editing that's involved with your podcast. What do you mean by not adding extra? Well, you have one set membership fee. Co-work spaces throughout the city of Jacksonville have membership fees. This is gonna act as a co-work space that offers so much more in that fee. So for $265 a month, you're able to acquire all of the free assets inside this space. So not only that, but you get to take that stuff home with you. You're gonna have licenses for Adobe, you're gonna get licenses for Microsoft, you're gonna be able to join our online platform to be able to be a part of something even while you're away. It's a beautiful thing, man. We can stay connected and stay energized together. So let us create with this We Create space. But we need you. In order to make this space happen for the creatives in the community of Jacksonville, we need up to $250,000. We're looking to raise $50,000 a month for the next 4 months. And anything we're short, we're looking to continue to fundraise for this space. This space is a beautiful space. It allows us to be able to offer the free classes to the community, elevate people's entrepreneurial skills while they get to continue to grow their creative skills. How can you help? Great question. So how you can help is you're gonna be able to go to the link in our bio on our Instagram at the 21st Men, and it's going to be our media division. So it's just at the 21st Men. There'll be a GoFundMe link in our bio, as well as our Facebook page will have our GoFundMe listed there as well. And we would greatly appreciate your support in helping the 21st Men create something amazing for the community. Stay tuned.
Welcome to Man Theory, a curated show by the 21st Men. I'm Jason Scott.
And I am the prolific one, Matthew Wyman, that is with the 21st Men, collaborated with the Theory brand. The show today, we're gonna be talking about success and how we are bound to success as a man and how it goes in life as being a man, just being bound.
Okay, so I personally feel, man, that a man without success in today's society is an invisible man.
Right.
I feel like that's why men are so bound to the pursuit of success, because, you know, we're not thought of or cared about if we don't accomplish something.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that totally. My part is on is a lot of things with men in life on success is that I've come across with myself in my life as being a man is just I think a lot of men come bound to just lacking of the will of knowledge, seeking knowledge for themselves and not like everybody else does, you know, reading books or empowering themselves on something. You know, it comes in a lot of ways that you don't know in life as a man. So, I mean, I don't know if you can see that, but I mean, you know.
Yeah, the pursuit of knowledge, like you're saying, but also finances, women, and all these other things that the Western portion of the world has deemed to be success.
Yeah.
If we don't have some semblance or combination of all these things, no one, like you could die today and the only people that'll care is your immediate family. But, and this is just my opinion, not to be matter of fact, but in my personal opinion, I feel as if I personally haven't accomplished enough for a whole lot of people to care about me if I was to die today. And I feel like that's what binds men to success, because will we really be as passionate about a Kobe Bryant or a Nipsey Hussle if they weren't A, rapping, or B, famous for playing basketball.
Right.
There'd just be another guy that lived and died. You know what I mean? I think that's what binds men to success.
Yeah, just to top on that, just binding and stuff with success, I mean, it comes so rapidly, but I feel like we as men don't catch it, you know what I'm saying, when it comes to binding ourselves with being bound to things or becoming bound. So, whether it's being finances or relationships or whatever, a lot of times we don't figure out, we don't bind ourselves to something, becoming bound until the middle of something, and then we get to the point we ask ourselves, how do we get here? How do we even get here? How do we get out of this? Or where do we go from here? But you done made it to a point where you so in depth where you at, you don't know if you want to keep going or start over. You know what I'm saying? I think a good topic of this is just like, sometimes we have to find out what we really want to do before we do them, no matter what it is, because if we don't, then we'll become stuck, and then a lot of mistakes happen. I mean, that's some of the reasons why some of us become baby daddies out here, so yeah.
and that's a good segue into how the pursuit of success affects all our other relationships. Mm-hmm. Like, you could be married to someone or have a significant other that you plan on marrying, mm-hmm. and what'll happen is, because her and your potential family that you're gonna have with her are depending on you to be successful, and then even outside of the relationship, you have all the people that looking at you, and then if you're not accomplishing something, it just kind of, you're looked at differently than a man who has accomplished something. Mm-hmm. And so, because you know that in the back of your mind, you might neglect your relationship. You might neglect your family. Like, I personally have done this. My mom, my grandma, everybody be like, I don't, come around or call enough. And to a degree, I would agree with that. I could, show my face more and stuff like that. But it's because I'm pursuing something meaningful, because mm-hmm. I know that if I don't, and I would feel like this void inside of me if I didn't leave something behind after I died. Yeah. I don't know if that same pressure is applied to women mm-hmm. in their lives, because many times women are defined by, this is just my personal opinion, women can define their own success by accomplishing their own things, mm-hmm. but the out that they have is attaching themselves to a successful man, and that's success for it can be success for them. Again, they can create success for themselves, but even if they don't, if they attach themselves to a successful man, that's how you get a Melinda Gates. Yeah. We can't be Melinda Gates to an Oprah Winfrey. We'll just end up like Stedman.
Yeah. I also can understand where you're coming from when it comes to leading a legacy. I have a 10-year-old son, so I mean, leadership is a big thing when it comes to not becoming bound to certain situations, you know what I'm saying? Because as a man and being a father, teaching my son everything that I didn't understand and things that I understood and he understands, when he becomes older, like, by me teaching him things like investing or handling finances or business, other than just learning school, he won't become bound to so much stuff in his 20s. Or when he gets to his 30s, he can already live his life as an entrepreneur or something like that. So I totally understand what you mean by that. But as more looking at a point of leadership in that state, it becomes a bigger role too, because being a leader and not becoming bound to stuff in relationships is another one. So I think just like if women, look for guys that, are well off or set in just, they're set in stone where they at. I mean, I think a lot of people just really, women and men, sometimes they put their own life ahead of who that person is they're trying to get to know instead of what they have. And you can have more if you just look at the simple things, you know what I'm saying? Because if these days, a woman really, from my opinion, looks at the things like that. So a lot of the times, they forget what the simple things is. So I once asked a woman, if you get married or you date a guy, is leadership important? And she was like, yeah, you know what I'm saying? And I asked her, I said, so why does it come to a point where you get into a relationship and people come to a point where say, I don't know why I'm with this person, what we doing, or things like that. So it's like, dang, so if you look for a guy and he don't know where he's going as a leader and he can't be the leader in your life, but you still deal with him being in your life, why do you get to that point? Why does a guy, him not knowing, and he does not know, why does he allow himself to stay in the relationship? You know what I'm saying?
That's something that makes relationships really tricky for men, because we have to straddle the line between leading the woman in the relationship, but also not crushing, her ego as a woman by saying, we're gonna lead but silence you. So you gotta try to find that balance between letting her have her voice and her input on certain things regarding the relationship, but also leading and finding that middle ground. Yeah. Because at the same time, like women, mostly feminist women, they wanna, and I agree with them, they should have a voice and they should be able to have their input on certain things. But those same women who want that, they still want a man to lead. They just don't want to be silenced. Yeah. So finding that balance, it can be really tough. So being bound to your success, but also being bound to having a successful relationship. Because you hear a lot of people say, a man isn't defined until he has a wife and kids. Like, a lot of people actually believe that. And in the pursuit of that, you gotta try to find that balance in trying to lead this woman without stifling her.
Man, I understand exactly where you're coming from, but that's our time. So it was a great show. I think we can get something out of this. We both can get something out of this, and hopefully they get something out of this.
Yeah, hopefully.
So once again, I'm Matt, the prolific guy. You can find me at the Theory Brand on Instagram or Prolific Theory Foundation on Instagram. And
again, I'm Jason Scott. You can find me on Instagram and Facebook at GetTheKeys247. That's my business page. And personal on Instagram, you can find me at J_M247. And I also have a book for sale. It's called Better Late Than Never: How You Can Turn a History of Procrastination into a Success Story. So for those of you who feel like you might have wasted some time in your life and missed some opportunities, you can purchase this book and you'll get some tips to kind of start from where you are now and get where you want to be. Because as long as you have breath in your body, you always have time to get where you want to go. So it's a very encouraging read. You can find it at betterlatethebook.com. A link to purchase will be there. It is priced at $11.11, strategically for manifestation.